If I could have one piece of equipment, and I've owned a lot of equipment. We've done gas wells and things for a pretty good while, and done a lot of things, but I'd like to have one of those big grinders, like they put a car motor in and all that stuff. Man, I love watching them. When they chew up stuff, put bowling balls in it.
Absolutely.
And I seen a guy the other day, he's building one for house trailers.
Yeah.
Where you can take a whole house trailer.
Put it in there, yeah.
And because he talked about how many millions of old house trailers are out there that are abandoned.
Yeah.
And you know how it is. I mean, once we'll leave them, they'll just leave them.
They'll just leave them there.
And he said they're abandoned and they can't do anything with them. But they showed how they could take them through and just shred them and then separate out the stuff and recycle. I watched the thing where they done batteries. It was fascinating. And I have to watch when my wife goes to sleep. I can watch it. So she won't let me watch it when she's awake. But I watch that stuff where they take those batteries and repurpose batteries. And it's fascinating how they take that black or that part of them out, separate out everything. Yeah. But I mean, there's just so many worlds that we don't think about, isn't there? Mm-hmm. I like that.
There was one of those, they put a car in, put a quarter in it, and it spit the quarter out. So, it took the car apart and spit the quarter out. And I was like,
that's crazy.
How do you do that? But technology's come a long ways.
Yeah. It's just it's just the way they repurpose those things and go through and do them. And I watched them too on this where they take those computers apart and the boards apart and the things like that. And they get the gold or they get the silver. Or they take them out. And I had a buddy of mine, and he's a jeweler, and he would go to other countries where people worked on jewelry, and they would work on it in a shed, okay? And he would buy like 3 inches of their dirt, and he would buy their filters out of their fans, and he would buy their sink traps and get the gold. He'd take that back and filter that and get the gold out of it. And they talk about, I mean, he was resourceful.
That's amazing.
He did go to jail, but he was a nice guy. I tell you what they done.
Nice people in jail.
I mean, I tell you what they done on him. He bought this guy pastored a big church, okay, and a good guy. I mean, he was way nicer than I am. He was a good guy, and he bought silver trace, a big set off of this guy, and got a receipt, and got everything, and wrote him a check for it. It turned out to be stolen. And this judge told him, said, this was back when everything was going on some ministry. He said, I'm going to make an example out of you. And he put him in jail.
Wow.
And he had to serve, and he would get on the phone on Sunday morning and minister at the church. They would put him on the speaker. But I mean, stuff happens.
I mean, if you write a check and get a receipt, you didn't know. I don't
see the
purpose of putting them in jail.
But you know, and I know. There's things you say can't happen. It can happen.
It can happen.
Okay.
I've saw that myself. Yeah. The judicial systems seems like nowadays have weaponized themselves if they want to go after people, and that's very unfortunate.
It really is. I watched a guy one time, and he owed a little hospital bill, and just wasn't a very big hospital bill, and $200. But the bank, somehow the hospital had got a lien on his truck, and he still owed forward credit for the truck. And I watched them come in with the rollback and take his truck. And whole time I'm standing there, I'm saying they can't do that as it drove out of town.
Yeah, like if somebody owes taxes on their house in these counties, the local government can seize the house, sell it at auction, get their tax money, and then the bank's left with what's left, if anything, and then if not, they lose their money. So I think they try to protect the government to begin with, and then or in the beginning, and then the bank thereafter. But I've seen that happen.
I seen one time I was watching. I can't remember what they're called. It's a loan like these people owed money on their house. Okay, back when the housing market had went crazy years ago, and they owed so much more on their house. Well, the bank repoed their house. But when they repoed their house, they just kept it, and it stayed in their name. And they never sold it, and it just stayed there and lingered in their name. And it was crazy. They said, and they were talking about, they were trying to buy another house, but they couldn't do anything because this house was still in their name. Wow. And the bank's still holding it on the books, and because they're still holding it as an asset. But it's fascinating.
Talking about doctor bills, and that's something that obviously a supervisor, the elected level position I'm in, doesn't have really any control over. But I would imagine, it needs to be something if I eventually run for Congress or whatever,